USC is 94th in returning production, but they absolutely killed the portal. How?
Okay, let me pull up USC here. So obviously Caleb Williams helps, but they still only return 30% of passing yards because they lost Slovis and Dart. So that's one of those where if you're into making manual adjustments, you give Williams like a full season's worth of numbers instead of half. But I mean, even then, it's still only going to be like 50%. They return well, the other offensive numbers are okay, like 50 something percent of rushing yards, 60 something percent of receiving yards because of the portal, because of, you lose Ingram, but you get Travis Dye, you lose Drake London, but well, you get Washington and Bryant, but then you also get Mario Williams and Terrell Bynum and whatnot. So that kind of on offense, it at least kind of splits the difference. Their offensive numbers aren't terrible. The defensive numbers are terrible. And that's scary because any hype they're getting this year is because of the offense. But number one, I mean, OU had its worst team in 7 years last year. And I'm not going to pretend Caleb Williams was responsible for that. He only played half the year. They still had, a very, very good offense and a bad defense and now he's going to USC. It probably has less on defense than last year's OU team had. At least it will at first. Like, I really struggle with the hype here because the defense is just not built to turn around quickly. And that was USC's problem last year. That was Alex Grinch's problem last year. And now they're moving west with a roster very similar to the one they had. But the defense is where the problems are, like losing 3 of your top 5 defensive linemen and adding a couple, but not guys who played a lot, losing a couple of high volume linebackers and same deal. Like the guys they added via the portal on defense, only like one of them played more than 218 snaps last year. It's just not making much of an impact. Offense is fine. Defense is still going to be an issue.
Stanford's one of our favorite teams to talk about just because it was like the example of the early signing period and the impact that it can have and the way that admissions and all these other things that a lot of college football fans don't think about changed a program that was at the very, very top of the Pac-12, and they started to take a step back. Now we are seeing recruiting in this past cycle. David Shaw has done a really, really good job at being able to restock everything. And here Stanford sits in a very interesting position, 3rd nationally. I think that I'm curious to hear your thoughts on whether you believe that all this seeming like reversal of the trajectory and the momentum is going to end up playing out on the field where we see Stanford back in the mix for Pac-12 titles.
Yeah, it speaks volumes. I think when I tweeted out earlier, the teams that are projected to improve the most, like on an adjusted points per game basis, not like ratings points, but actually just who's going to improve the most by points. Stanford is number 1 easily. They're projected to improve by 11.9 points per game overall. That moves them to 68th in SP Plus because they were 105th last year. Like well, I mean, they've had this thing going for a while now where like the offense achieves a certain level, but the defense kind of falls off a little bit, and then the defense improves and the offense falls off a little bit. But both of them completely fell apart last year. And that's like Tanner McKee, it appears to be pretty solid. His receiving core isn't amazing considering they actually have some pretty good former recruits there. The run game stunk for the most part and has stunk for years now. And they're still Stanford. They're still, they want to do the big burly thing, and they have a lot of well-recruited offensive linemen, but they knew they couldn't run last year. They were like bottom percentages in like run rate and whatnot because they couldn't do it. And that's kind of crazy, but they couldn't do those Stanford things well on offense, and the defense was bad. And now they lose like the entire defensive line. Again, SP Plus doesn't really care about that, but they don't have just a ton of star talent, like recruiting stars talent at linebacker or DB. So that's kind of the issue. I think the offense should take a step forward. Tanner McKee is good, and the receiving core is very experienced. The line is very experienced. I don't know if they have a single damn thing at running back, but they should still be. Yeah, I guess EJ Smith was decent, but he also barely played. They should be okay on offense. I just don't know why. Like they get no faith whatsoever on the defensive side of the ball at this point.